So, good morning or good night, depending on where you are in the world. And welcome to another interview of the Shield Dude on a Couch. I'm your host, Hector. And today I'm joined by a member of the band Mother of Graves. They're a death doom metal band from Indiana. And I'm joined by Chris Morrison. He's the guitar player in the band. So, Chris, how are you tonight?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. So yeah, so it's good to have you here. So I wasn't familiar with the band, but I saw the promo, and the first thing that really lured me in was the artwork of the record, which we'll show later. It's a great artwork, and I heard Death Doom, so I started listening to the album, and the two singles that you have right now out are really good. And I don't know, like your Brian's vocals reminded me of the band. It had Doom, but it reminded me of a band that I love called Omnium Gatherum.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Familiar.
so his vocals, like the part where he does the growlings, really reminded me of that singer, of that style. But then you have like the doomy riffish because you have upon burdened hands and shattered the visage. I don't know if you
Mhm.
if that's the
Yeah, yeah.
correct. So and I thought all those two tracks were very strong. I know that Brian does most of the lyrics for the record, correct?
Yeah, yeah. Brandon does them. Yeah, he
Oh
he
my God, Brandon.
yeah, yeah,
It's he's
it's
late, man.
yeah, yeah. No, he's a prolific writer with words. He keeps notebooks around and just he's constantly writing. So yeah, he writes all of the lyrics are all Brandon.
Okay. And you guys basically formed a few years ago, and you have an EP and you have an album that you put out in 2022 called Where the Shadows Adorn. And I listened to tracks from that as well. Uh but I think maybe on this one, I think the production sounds a little bit more I don't want to use the word polish because but yeah, it's you can hear like the production, and I know that you had some you had some legendary producer help with some of the production with the mastering, which was Duan Suano. So tell me a little bit about how you think the band has changed, like for people who followed you from your first EP and the album, what can they expect on this new album that's coming out in October?
Yeah, sure. So I mean, if we go all the way back to that first EP, that was we released that in 2021 on Wise Blood Records. Before that, we were just more of I had just written some songs. My one of my best friends had passed away, and I was grieving and just writing some like sad songs, you know. And I didn't have any expectation that this would ever be a band. So but then I had my buddy Ben, who I played in a band with before and was good friends with. He's got a little home studio set up, so he helped me finish up the songs that I was writing. And when we were writing those songs, which could have been a demo or whatever, um, we felt there was something there, so we decided, hey, you know what, we should probably explore maybe actually being a band. This is kind of cool. So we did. We made those songs. So that first EP. Um, it was just put together based on, songs that I had like recorded, like voice memos on my
Mhm.
phone, whatever. Um, and, Ben had just kind of started his music production. So Ben's produced and engineered all of our recordings so far. So that was him back in 2021. And then, the reception to that EP was pretty good, way more than we expected because we didn't expect anything. We didn't even know we were going to be an actual band. We thought it might be a studio project, might be nothing, whatever. But then we wrote the Where the Shadows Adorn album, which I think was quite a step up from the EP personally. And then Ben's production got better on that. Dan Swano, he's mastered everything we've done so far. So he's fantastic to work with. He's seen the production get better too, which is awesome. Like on the EP, he I think he said like it was good, but it was like taking like a wet blanket off of it, when we did the mastering. So, but then, Ben's gotten so good. Like I think this new one, his production, like you said, it's more polished. We try to keep it, not too polished. We don't want to sound all mechanical like a lot of the like bands sound these days or whatever. But
Yeah,
um,
no, no, it doesn't sound mechanical, but that's why I'm like, because sometimes you are polished.
yeah. But but it does like Ben's upped his game a whole lot, with his skills with engineering and production, and then Dan's always fantastic when he puts the mastering touch on there. So I think it sounds fantastic personally. And song wise, I think these are the best songs that we've written. Honestly, people always say that about their new album, but I feel pretty good about them. The melodies are where we wanted them to be in the song structures and everything. I think we're all very happy with it.
Yeah, yeah. I don't. A lot of bands say that, but once I would like to see someone say like, "Yeah, we just put this out.
Yeah, I
Like,
don't know.
it's
We
not
like the
our
last
best.
one better.
It's
We
not
just
our
threw the
best
crap together
stuff."
at the last
Like,
minute.
yeah, that would have happened to me last year because it's a very funny story. I got an email for a PR saying to if I wanted to interview Wes Canling of Puddle of Mud. And I'm like, did he see my review? I put a review of the album saying it was total shit. I'm like, how can I interview this man and tell him like to my face, like, I think your album is terrible. But hopefully he canceled it, so it didn't happen. But a buddy of mine is like, you should do it. I'm like, what the hell am I going to? I can't lie to the. I don't know how that interview's gonna go. Like,
Yeah, your album's terrible, but hey, how you doing?
like, yeah, Wes, I remember your Wes, and like I used to be a fan of the first album. Now, so that would have been funny, but because it would have been funny if he would have told me this is the best thing, and I would be like, really?
Really?
Like, are you sure? Like, but yeah, no, this is it's very good album, and uh I like that how the death metal and the doom, because there's the song sometimes get heavy, but sometimes with it takes their place, but they're heavy but slow at times. So you have
Yeah.
the perfect combination. Plus, the name of the album is a pretty cool name. It's I want to try to say this correctly, the Periapt of Absence. And you gave me that. I'm like, what the hell is a Periapt? So I had to Google it. It's an item worn or a charm of amulet. So the amulet of absence. Was that the meaning that you guys were trying to give it?
Well, yeah, Brandon would have to explain that better, but the themes are always around like loss and longing and like we're a very personal band, we're not singing about, like, cannibals and zombies or whatever your satanic stuff. No, it's a very personal band, Um
Mhm.
so his writing is very personal and he's gone through some things that in his personal life that he's writing about and I think that's kind of where it comes into play, like I don't know exactly what he's meaning by that. However, I do know that it's always like, loss and longing and love and hopelessness sometimes, but then there's also a glimmer of hope. So, I mean, if you look at the album cover, like we have the shadowy woman figure
Yeah.
there, and the old man, like at the
Let's
grave.
show the album artwork since we're talking about it.
Yeah,
So
he's clutching, the Periapt. He's clutching
yeah.
the yeah, right there. So I think the artwork came out fantastic. So
Yeah, it
it's
looks like a painting that I would see in a museum. Is it a painting from a museum, or is this
yeah.
someone did the artwork for this?
Yeah, Kalen Stokermans did this. He's an amazing artist. He's done a lot of work, for bands. But we were searching out for somebody who who's alive now, who could paint like they did back in the romantic era, in periods like that. And that's the vibe we wanted. We wanted something dark and kind of like gothic looking, and it like this. Like we wanted it to look old and just have a lot of like darkness and emotion behind it. And I think he nailed it. I think it's a great piece. It does look like a painting. We've had people who've messaged us and thought like we took this out of a book or something, or out of a museum, but no, this is
They're like,
this is
did
all
you
original.
steal this?
We did not, I promise. You go try to find it somewhere you're not going to
They're
other
like,
than
yes, that would be a funny story. Yes, we were at a museum, we didn't have cash, so we grabbed a painting and we just kept running.
shoved it in our backpack and took off.
Yes, I'm like, this is going to be the album artwork, and no one will ever know. Yeah, no, but yeah, no, it looks, it looks cool because it looks like it could have been painted centuries ago. I love music, but I also love art. That's why every time that I do interviews, I like to because not a lot of like reviewers or like to talk about the artwork, but I think the artwork is important because when you are selling an album, the artwork is basically the calling card.
I
The
agree
artwork.
100%. Yeah.
And I'm guessing you grew up in the 90s like me, and it was very important back then, the artwork. And somewhere along the way, some artwork has gone there's some bands that don't pay as much attention to the artwork. So
Yeah.
and I like it that it looks like a real person painted it and there's no AI stuff or anything like that.
Yeah. I think it's a disservice to your album if you're going to, cheap out on the artwork or use some sort of AI art, like the music still might be good, but it seems it's very lazy to me. I don't know. There's plenty of great artists out there who can be found and, will put together a fantastic album art piece for like a reasonable amount of money. There's no reason you need to go into an AI generator and generate some crap that just looks like everything else are boring. And yes, like I grew up in the age where, you couldn't go online and just, like stream a few songs to see if you liked an album. So you're sitting there like digging through the racks looking for something that looks cool, and picking out some of the coolest artwork, hoping that you're not going to get made a fool of because the artwork's cool, but then the album's terrible. But
Sometimes, I don't know, I think, at least in my opinion, most of the time, if the artwork was cool, usually the album was cool.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
Most of the time, I'm trying to think of I'm sure there's maybe do you have
I
one
have
in
an
mind?
example. So like there's that Molly Hatchet album and a lot of the Molly Hatchet like artwork, like
Mm.
when I was young, I had no appreciation for like their blues rock or whatever it is, but they've got like the Viking looking guys, like storming on their artwork and it looks way heavier than the album is when you press play. Same with like Kiss, when I was a little kid, I didn't really get Kiss. I'm okay with Kiss now, but like they scared me. Like when my sister was listening to him before I had heard him, I saw like the poster, the Destroyer poster and up on my sister's wall, and I was freaked out because they looked so scary. But then I listened to it and I was like, I don't know.
They're not very scary.
No,
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
not.
No, but yeah, I can't remember artwork. But yeah, but I think it's important. So yeah, the artwork is cool. So I'm sure maybe you've been asked before about the name, but is there a story for the name Mother of Grapes?
Yeah, yeah, a little bit. So yeah, when we decided we were going to be a band, we needed a name. Like I mentioned, the band was kind of formed after the passing of one of my friends, like one of my really good friends. So the whole theme of the band was just about loss and death and grief, and so my mom's from Latvia, Eastern European country, and so I
Oh,
was kind of just
I've heard it. Yeah.
yeah, it's between Estonia and Lithuania, and I was just kind of looking through Latvian like mythology and just kind of just doing some like whatever reading browsing online, and I came across Kapumate, which translates to Mother of Graves or like protector of graves, protector of the dead. And so I was like, oh, you know what? That's pretty fucking cool. Mother of
Yeah.
Graves. So like we translated it, and it's kind of like an homage to, our all of our friends and family who have, passed on. And also, it's kind of cool because, it's a Latvian name, which is my heritage, like on my mom's side of the family. So that's kind of where we came up with that. I just thought it fit pretty well.
Yeah, no, it's a cool name. And when you hear that name, you think of Doom, like doomier
Yeah.
stuff, metal. Uh, so tell me a little bit about the when you guys were recording this. Tell me a little bit about the recording process for this one. Was it very similar because you're working with the Dan Swano and the same people, or did you do some changes for this one?
Yeah, no, like so we always like Ben's always been our other guitarist. He's always engineered everything. He has a home studio. And we're kind of different than bands I've been in the past and what a lot of other bands do. We don't get together a lot as a band in the same room and like, jam and like write and stuff like that. We pretty much do our own thing like separately and share stuff online. Like, we have a Google Google Drive that we share riff ideas in. We all have ideas on our phones and things like that. And I live close to Ben, so we go over there and we start putting together the demos in his home studio. Um, and actually, they're not even actually demos. We just start recording them with a scratched drum track. So yeah, we didn't really do anything differently. This is how we've done everything. It's like uh, everybody puts in their ideas, and then we start tracking at his house. We actually tracked most of the guitars before we tracked the drums on this one. We did the drums at Azimuth Studios here in Indianapolis. Um, with like the scratch tracks, like Don would wear the headphones and play to a click track and everything. And then we edited those drums in there over at Ben's house, or Ben did. And then, we went back in and recorded bass and fixed a few guitar things here and there. And then Brandon came in and did his vocals. So, that's our process. It works really well for us. Some people, they like to hole up in the studio for like 2 weeks with everybody together, or however long your budget can allow for. But since he has his own studio, we get to work on this basically whenever we want to and just on an ongoing process. So it just really works well for us.
Yeah, maybe because you guys started doing stuff like after pandemic times, you got used to doing things that way.
Yeah,
And maybe
right.
that's, yeah,
Yeah.
maybe that's why you're like, yeah, uh,
You're actually right, because when we were first got together, that's kind of like when the pandemic hit, when we first decided that we were going to do this as a band. And so, we had a long time where we were just listening to stuff that Ben had been putting together in the studio because we weren't comfortable getting together at that time, and then we were just waiting until we felt it was safe enough. And then, yeah, we got in there and wrapped up that first stuff. So, yeah, it was a little
yeah,
bit.
so you got used to it. So if it works for you guys,
Yeah.
it's good because I know there's some people, musicians that say like, no, it's not the same if they're not together in the
Yeah.
same room, like but other people can can send, and I don't know, I think it just depends on the individual. uh
Yeah.
the
We've all
band
known each other for a really long time, like everybody in the band. We've all played in like bands together in the past. So it's not like we're like new to working with each other. Like I've been in a band with Ben, like starting back in 1997 or 98 or something like that. We were in a band for a number of years, and Corey and Brandon, and I've been in bands
Was
with
it
Don.
always doom metal, or did you play
No,
like
no.
different types of bands?
Uh, Basically all of us were in like more brutal death metal bands before this. Like Ben and I were in a band called Harakiri, that played like semi-technical death metal. We were one of the early Willow Tip Records signings, if you're familiar with Willow Tip Records.
I think I've
Uh,
heard it. I
yeah,
like
yeah.
how you say like semi-technical. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
we're technical, but not that technical.
Yeah, technical death metal back in the late 90s was different than what it sounds like today. Like
Oh, oh
it's
yeah, there's a band called Archspire that now they're looking for a drummer. I'm thinking it's because the drummer basically had to go to like I don't know rehabilitate himself because he's got to have arthritis or something.
too much. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he's like
So yeah, that was the stuff. We were much younger doing that, and then the other guys, they were in a band called Summon the Destroyer, which was fairly
yeah.
technical, just brutal
So
death
you're
metal.
older and you say like, "Hey, let's play Doom. It's
Yeah,
slow. It's better on the joints."
it's it's easier. I don't have to practice as much.
uh,
It's
would say it's easier, but those technical that like I said, the drummer from that band, I heard he quit. I'm like I've listened to. I'm actually I know they're good, but it's just too much for me. And I
yeah,
heard the drumming, and it sounds like he doesn't have like a breather. I'm like, this is just not sustainable in the long run. Like he
yeah.
he has to like carpal tunnel something. The poor guy has to be like super screwed.
Yeah, I don't understand how drummers can do that. I haven't heard enough time playing, fast tremolo picking for that long anymore. You know, I'm a lot older now and a lot less out of practice. So, whew.
Yeah, no, but you have some cool guitars on the back. So let's talk about you growing up and your what influenced you to become a musician.
Oh man, I have early memories of, I always loved music as a kid. I would listen to like whatever was on the radio, like Michael Jackson and Duran Duran, and whatever pop music was on, just on the radio. But then I started getting into skateboarding as a kid, and along with that came like Thrasher magazine and like punk rock and hardcore. And then my uncle gave me a stack of bootleg cassette tapes that had like AC/DC and just like other random hard rock stuff in it. And so I started really getting into music. And I remember like sitting there with some of my friends, I had an acoustic guitar that my aunt had bought me, and we got out some pots and pans and we're trying just to like make a little jam in my bedroom or whatever. And then from a very young age, probably like, 12, 13 years old, I always wanted to like be in a band. And then, I eventually got my first electric guitar and found a friend with drums. So we started playing just like in random bands, like, when you're like 15, 14, 15 years old, and then from there on, I started getting into heavier music, and I got into hardcore, and then got into all different kinds of metal, everything, you name it. I've probably been into it like really hard at some point. So,
Yeah, at least you made it as a band. When I was younger, I had like a band with some friend of mine, and it was like in the grunge era, so I thought I could sing. Uh, and I have a notebook with some of the lyrics I read, and I think I've showed them to my girlfriend, and they're like, "This you should never read this out loud for people." They're very terrible. Well, I have a vivid memory of like I wrote like a poem for school, like those songs, and they called me in to the principal's office to like, Hector, are you okay? Like, like what's no, I remember I wrote a song called Kill or Be Killed. And I'm like, what the hell was I talking about? And there was one about like me losing a virginity in a Sunday morning. I'm like, what the hell am I talking about? I was a virgin. I wasn't losing anything to anyone. So, and one of my friends that like he had the band with me, he's a doctor now, but he was like, no, man, they were so good. I'm like, they weren't, man. They were really bad songs, but
it's so funny to look back at stuff like that. I look back at some of the early stuff that, I was a part of, and I'm like, oof, I don't want to listen to that ever again.
no. And you know what? Every time I read a song, I'm like, I was reading something, I'm like, this sounds like this could be a Nirvana song. Each song sounded like bands that I love. I'm like, I'm just copying everyone.
I mean,
But
that's one way to do it. I mean, hey,
yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
guilty.
no. It's and it's funny because grunge is actually making a comeback now.
Oh, I, I'm
There's like
I love
there's
that
like
stuff.
young bands. There's this young band that I listen to called Druides, and they're pretty cool. I reviewed the album, but they have a song on the album. I don't know. That's the only thing I said on the review negative. That is called I Don't Know, and the bass line is basically the same bass line to Come As You Are. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but that sounds too similar to Come As You Are, and the song isn't that great. So that was my only nitpick. The song starts like dum 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 dum, but then they change it a little. But it's that's a bass line that it's very well known.
Yeah, yeah.
Not like they
That's
took
one.
an obscure song. They took a song that was a hit.
I think that's one of the first songs that I actually learned how to play all the way through on guitar when I was a kid.
Yeah, it has that classic dum dum the it has that bass line that dun 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 dun. Dun.
Yeah.
It's very like it's hard to not to miss it. So, but yeah, it's good to see. You are playing different bands and inspired. So, for you now, like, how do you see touring as something that it's a very necessity at the moment, or is it something that you're not like such a fan anymore?
Yeah, like we're all family men, we've all got kids and stuff and and jobs. So like we're not going to be out there doing month-long tours or anything like that. And we don't want to do month-long tours. So we kind of have a philosophy, of quality over quantity. So we've been
Hmm.
focusing on playing festivals like we flew out to Seattle and played Northwest Terror Fest out in Seattle. We played the Decibel Magazine Metal and Beer Fest in Denver last year.
That
Um,
seems smart because you get more people seeing you and it's
yeah,
fun. It's a one-off, and then you go. Mhm.
exactly. We've done some like mini runs. We did, a few dates. We went to New York City and down the East Coast a little bit, so and that's
Yeah,
our plan.
closer to Indianapolis. Yeah, like that area. Yeah.
Yeah, Chicago, we played Chicago. So like that's our plan. who we might maybe we'll
So,
go out for a few weeks or so, a couple weeks here and
so
there.
your plan is to go to cities with the best food.
Yeah, right. I
You're
know.
like, let's go to Chicago. Let's go.
That's
Yeah.
the best part of touring and playing shows is eating, like the show's fun, but hey, let's go eat some good stuff. Hopefully we'll
Yeah.
get over to Europe and get to make some really exciting dining decisions over there.
Oh yeah. Well, it's yeah. I love the food in Europe. It's really good. So it's like a different thing. Uh, so yeah, no touring now. You do the more the shows and like how are the crowds? Like when you're playing, do you get like all type of crowds, like very young people? Because it's interesting to me, like how young people are listening to metal.
Yeah, like the shows we played here, like our hometown shows are very like mixed crowd. We've got people older than me. We've got a young crowd. There's a lot of younger people in Indianapolis right now that are getting into metal, which is really awesome. A lot of younger bands that I'm just like trying to keep track of and trying to like stay up to speed on because it's hard. And everything we've played's been kind of a mixed bag of crowds. The crowds have always been great. They've been very receptive to us, because I had no idea, if people would be receptive to our music. Like there's not in the United States, there's not a lot of bands playing, melodic death doom metal or anything like that. But people have been receptive, from the young to the old. I get emails and messages all the time on Instagram, things like that from just all sorts of different people who are enjoying it.
Yeah, no, it's good, and I think metal right now. A lot of people say like, yeah, no, metal is not that popular, but there's a lot of bands, and I think people are sometimes thirsty for like real music out there. So yeah, it's good to discover new bands and listen. So uh, I know that the album has 9 tracks, so it's like you say, it's kind of like a bleak record, but it's like a mournful record, I would say.
Yeah,
Uh, but I think even though it's mournful, there's glimmers of hope in it. Uh, which obviously I don't have all the lyrics, but yeah, it's I think it's not like because there's albums that are just like so depressing and there's
yeah,
no like a ray of light, but I don't think this is the case with your band.
yeah. I mean, that's what we're going for. Because that's life, like it can be super depressing and down, but you got to move on, like you have to, like just because, something terrible has happened or whatever, we're processing that through our music, but also, we're not always, just depressed and mournful. There's always, some sort of hope that's always out there, you just have to find it. And I hope that comes across a little bit in the music. Even if you don't have the lyrics, I think you can hear it in some of the music. Like the end of the last track on the album, we kind of have a crescendo on how
Oh
we're
yeah, yeah,
and
and it's a longer track.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, that's like darkness to a dying flame.
Yeah, yeah, that one right there. I think that's one of the examples of, the glimmers of hope that, have been mentioned because the way that kind of goes out, it's to me it feels a little bit like it ends on a hopeful ending, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, and not to be confused to like "I'm Off to a Flame" by Metallica, people.
There you go.
Do not confuse the songs. So yeah, no, but yeah, I like that it has like everything in that music. So I'm gonna, the album is gonna be out in a few weeks from now. Uh, it's gonna be out October the 18th. So yeah, just it's gonna be soon.
Yep.
And it's going to be out. You're gonna have it on CD, LP, digital, and you have the pre-orders. I'm gonna show the link for all the pre-orders because you
Yeah,
have it
yeah.
on Linktree,
Yep.
uh,
And also
which
it's
is
we just announced yesterday that it's going to be released on cassette too on our old label. We're on Profound Lore Records now, but our previous label, Wise Blood Records, they worked out a deal where they are releasing 100 hand numbered cassette tapes, very limited edition of the album. So that's going to be out too. You can pre-order those on Bandcamp. So
yeah.
Yeah. So we got digital, we got CD, we got vinyl, two different variants on the vinyl. There's a cool like green swirl vinyl. There's a cool
Can't see
like
anything. Yeah,
like a
yeah,
red smoky vinyl. So yeah.
yeah. Are you very into vinyl?
I am, but I try to hold back on buying too much because I don't need to have
Yeah.
just
I've only
albums everywhere.
bought one album because I got really into vinyl like in 2020 in the pandemic, and I got like wild buying a lot of
Yeah,
stuff. But I bought a lot of stuff that I had in the 90s. So I bought a lot of like old stuff, but I bought newer bands. But uh, things are expensive. So this year I've only bought one vinyl.
what was it?
It was the new Pearl Jam.
Oh, nice. I haven't
The
listened
dark
to that yet. Is it
the
good?
dark I enjoy it. I think it's good, you know. Like obviously you can't go in expecting it to be 10
Yeah,
or versus because come on, they're not the same age as they were when they put out that album. But yeah, I think it's a pretty rocking album, and there's some good lyrics within the songs that are like more like the softer songs.
yeah.
Like so yeah, I like it and I bought it. I'm like, yeah, I'll buy the Pearl Jam record. So that's
That's
the only
cool.
one I bought on vinyl this year.
I'll have to
Uh,
check that out. I'll have to check that out. I haven't listened to I used to be a big Pearl Jam fan, like around 10 and everything, and then I kind of fell off. But yeah, I'd be interested to hear. I'm excited that they're like still out there doing the thing. It's pretty awesome.
yes, yes, it's one of the like the only bands that's doing it. So so we're almost at the end of the year. Like, do you have any things that have come out? Any favorites so far?
Oh geez, let me think real quick. I was just listening to the Spectral Wound like black metal album today at the gym, and I thought that was fantastic just because it's man, it's super catchy. Like black metal is like I like black metal. I like it more when it's like catchy and has cool melodies and things that I can latch onto instead of just a blurry lo-fi assault. That's great. But if there's like a hook or something like that, that pulls me in. The Gate Creeper album, I love the new Gate Creeper album. I've listened to it 100 times. It's fantastic. Uh, there's a bunch of other stuff that I'm sure that I'm just forgetting about. I don't like keep a good list. I just like, I buy stuff and put it on my iTunes on my phone and or listen
Oh,
to
I
it on.
have to keep a list because I do a top 25 at the end of the
Oh,
year.
do you? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and
I pre-ordered the Undeath album last night. There's a band called Void Witch that I've been listening to. Really cool doom metal band.
when is the On Death coming out? Is this year or next year?
I think it comes out. Does it come out tomorrow? Uh,
Oh,
yeah, I don't have
I,
the.
I'll have to check it out because yeah, while we're filming this tomorrow, the new Black Dahlia Murder's coming out.
Oh yeah, yeah. I listened to one of the singles on that today. It sounded really cool.
Yeah, no, it's cool, but yeah, no, it's the thing is like right now people sometimes complain that it's hard, but it was harder in our time to get music. You had to get the mixtapes and people like word of mouth. Now you have the in the fingertips of your phone, you can get music. So
Yeah.
maybe that's why people are like, it's not like it used to. I still really love music. Obviously, I have other priorities that sometimes I can't buy as much as I used to buy.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a little overwhelming at times. It's a lot to keep track of, so I have to rely on, people like you doing reviews and, magazines and websites and stuff. I read a lot of reviews all the time just to save time. So because I can't listen to everything out there. It's insane. There's so much stuff coming out like every single week. It's crazy.
It is crazy, but no, it's good to shine the light on like newer bands. So yeah, I would suggest Mother of Grapes to anyone who likes melodic doom metal. Yeah, like you said, there's not a whole lot of bands doing it. There's some, but not a whole lot.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, so yeah, I would recommend it to them, and I'll post the link since I couldn't show it. I don't know, it was like I'll show so people know where to buy it and see the music videos that are on YouTube. I'll follow you guys on YouTube. I'll
Awesome.
subscribe, so I'll follow you guys. So, before I let you go, man, anything that you like to say to the people before we go?
Yeah, sure. First of all, thank you so much for talking to me tonight. If anybody is in the Midwest, we have a couple album release shows we're doing with the band Immortal Bird, who's on 20 Buck Spin, November 15th
Oh,
in
they're gonna
Indianapolis.
put out an album soon. I got the promo for that one.
Yeah, it's on same release day as our album. So we met each other in Seattle and decided we were going to do a couple shows together this November. So November 15th in Indianapolis, November 23rd in Chicago. We're doing kind of a dual album release show with them. We have some other stuff planned for 2025 that we can't talk about yet, but our album comes out uh, on October 18th on Profound Lore Records. So if anybody is interested, Hector will have the links for you, or you can just go to the Profound Lore Records website and find everything you need there. Or come to our website, motherofgraves.com, and you'll find whatever you need.
Yeah, and obviously I have to check out the because I got the promo I think today for that one.
It's
So I have
fantastic.
to
It's
yeah,
good, really good.
I'll have to check that one out. Maybe I'll interview them too.
You should,
Uh,
you should. They're good people. They're really cool.
yeah, yeah. I thought they had like a interesting name. So Chris, it's been great chatting with you tonight about Mother Grapes, music, and everything in between. Uh, so uh, so yeah, thank you for joining me from Indianapolis to Puerto Rico to chat. So
Awesome.
people, Mother Grapes, October 18th. Don't miss it out. So until next time, couchers, this is Hector, the shield dude on a couch, and I'll see you all right here on the couch. Thank you and good night.